Man, I've known this guy for a long time. Wade Rice was one of the first people I met when I came into this industry some 23 years ago. Been a long-time operator. His father, Don, started the dealership way back in the 60s. Has a pretty cool story. Wade's an interesting character, man. I'll tell you, he's hard-headed. He has some quirky ideas, but he runs a really good dealership that is family-oriented, and he's been taking care of Rapid City, South Dakota for a lot of years. Stay tuned for Wade Rice. This is a show for anybody that has something that they want to say. It's going to be full of people with a lot of energy, CEOs, OEMs, vendors.
Best practice ideas in this industry and of neighboring industries.
We're talking to people that are on the cutting edge of processes, management.
Serial entrepreneurs, authors. We really have a feast of all different types of senior level people.
A cornucopia, as it were.
A plethora, maybe. Grab a pen, grab a cup of coffee, and have a seat. Start writing. This is GarageCast.
GarageCast. Welcome to GarageCast. Dantzler was just talking to our guest about jazz hands. Let's see those things, dude.
jazz hands.
jazz hands. Lots of vitriol about the last episode we did. Man, marine dealers are coming out of the woodwork. They're putting down their sea breeze drinks on their boats, and they're like, "Hey, you can kiss my ass." So
that's right. Hey, you remember, and I know our guest remembers this, but for years Harley was just crushing it, and the metric guys are like, "Man, they're just making money hand over fist or whatever." And then for the last 2 years, I've been saying of all the industries, powersports, Harley, and marine has been the most stable and healthiest coming off of the backside of COVID. Until this podcast and until Q2 of this calendar year, they just got hit so hard. So it's definitely a shakeup, and we're hearing a lot of people tell us about it.
Yes, sir. Well, let's jump into this episode. We got a legend. We got lineage. We got some crazy shit coming to us from South Dakota today. We have Wade Rice from Rice's Rapid Motorsports. I can honestly say that I've known you, Papa Wade. I call him Papa Wade now because he's a grandpa. I've known Wade. I've been arguing with Wade. I've been hitting Wade over the head with a hammer for the better part of 23 years. He was one of the first people I met in the industry. Anybody that knows Wade knows that he's hilarious, he's unique, and he's got a lot of stuff to say. So, Wade, glad to have you on. Thanks for coming on with us, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. It's always been exciting to listen to different stories from different people you guys do the podcast with. So looking forward to this.
Right on.
Let me just kick this off right, because Wade was in one of my groups back in the day. And the memory I have of Wade, and you're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about. We went to a football game as part of we built the 20 club around the football game, and we're coming back in the van, and we're all in the van. And I won't tell you who hit who, but what I will tell you is that between Steve Ertl and Marty Green, somebody got punched in the face that night in the van, and I swear Wade instigated it. That's how I remember it, Wade. I don't know that you remember it that way, but I do remember one of them bleeding and you were giggling, and I really was laughing right along with you. So did I get that memory right?
Well, we were sitting in the back together, but I think you were the instigator.
Oh, bullshit. Well, you can't turn this around. I'm the host of this podcast. Go to the
let's keep going, Wade. I got to hear this. Let's this is a perfect cue up to the story for anybody out there in our 20 clubs that hasn't been around for the better part of, I don't know, Wade. They started to get cleaned up about 15 years ago. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
Yeah. But pre 15 years ago, some 20 years ago, there was some crazy shit that used to happen. There's stuff that happened. I won't even, I'll take to my grave. So there we are. We're in two vans. Wade, let's hear this story.
Yeah. Well, I did go to the football game, and I don't think you did. I think you sold your ticket.
Well, a Green Bay Packers party in the parking lot instead of going in to sit in the stands seemed a lot more appealing to one Sam Dantzler back in those days. So, yeah, you're right. I did. I cashed out, and I just hung out, hopping parties in the parking lot, along with one of those two characters. Yes.
Yeah, so it's not like I was not feeling a little partyish, but you were well beyond me. So my recollection is
I don't like how this is going.
I love how Sam brought this story up, and here we come full circle. So Sam is juiced. What happened?
Somebody dared somebody to do something, and they did it, which is beyond me for friends. So it was a fake punch turned into a real punch, and it just got worse from there. But I did giggle. He's right. I was giggling because out of disbelief of what's going on in this van.
Well, to be fair, nobody in that van was sober. Let's just call that what it was. It was just which level of sober. And I think some of the instigation was, you going to take that from him? He's just talking shit on you. You going to take that right there? And so that went back and forth and all the way around the van. And then the fist started flying.
Fist fights. I have stories of racing vans to and from dinner and rubbing paint together. There's stories of actually taking rental cars onto dealership tracks where they usually would test motorcycles or side by sides. Rental cars would be racing on those. Those are the PG-13 stories. We can't even get into the other ones, but let's not digress too far.
Lemco world.
It was the Lemco world, and then Dantzler definitely carried it into RPMG world, and then he got very serious, and he made all these rules, which he never abided by. He just made sure.
I only carried Ed's rules forward. I never made one of those rules, and I think
nor have you ever abided by those rules. Just so you know.
God, start this podcast, please.
Yeah. So anyway, hey, listen, we're getting off on the wrong track here. Wado, I want to know, we can't even get into this episode. We can't start it off unless we talk first about the man that is Don Rice, your dad. Funny story. Then I'm going to let you go into this. I'm up at Wade's place years ago doing an in-dealership training, and I think his dad probably took up at least the first 3 hours of my day each day telling me stories, and they're great stories too. They're awesome stories about Rapid, about him and his younger days, about riding motorcycles. And he says, come on, let's go up to my office. I want to tell you this whole story. So we go and we sit down in his office. And at that time, this is the old dealership that was a great dealership. I mean, it was awesome. It was big. It was full of stuff, but it was definitely older for sure. And we go up into Don's office, and it's like straight in 1968. It has shag carpet in it. It's got a desk that hadn't seen a good day of pledge in probably 30, 40 years.
That's a fact.
And we're sitting there talking this and that, and he's like, he goes, "You like guns?" And I said, yeah, I like guns. He's like, "I should show you my gun safe." And I said, "Okay, let's go look at the gun safe." And in his office was a bathroom with a toilet and a tub that had a curtain drawn across it. And he's like, "Well, here, come on over." And he pulls the curtain across. He goes, "Here's my gun safe." And I mean, it is choked full of rifles and pistols, and he's a character, Wade. So tell us a little bit about your dad.
Yeah, the majority of those guns came from trading on bikes. I mean, he traded a load of potatoes once, and then anybody who bought a helmet or a bike got a couple bags of potatoes to take. So he lived back in the fun world where you could actually say something goofy. I know, I think you guys may know, but he was a Toyota and Honda car dealer at one time also. But he did a Thanksgiving promotion where he said, "Come in, test ride a Toyota, and we'll flip you the bird," and gave him a free turkey. So I don't think you could do that kind of stuff today.
No,
probably not.
But obviously, it worked for him. He always was a little different on that side of things on promotions. But yeah, he a little on the crazy side on trading stuff in.
That sounds like a Gary Surdike promotion, quite frankly. We'll flip you the bird from my whole family. All the Surdikes, you're going to get one from everybody.
How did he get into this industry, Wade?
So he always talked about having multiple jobs. He had 3 jobs when he was in high school, and then dropped out a month before he graduated. But the bottom line is, motorcycles was a passion of his, but he actually was a plumber. I think starting in like 1954 1963 all the way to 1967. Well, he started the new business, the new bike sales with Triumph and stuff, and BSA in 1960. So he had Bill Gickling and Don Wilson kind of running the motorcycle store while he was still plumbing till 1967. So Bill Gickling obviously went on to Black Hills Harley-Davidson and Black Hills Powersports, and very successful. So a lot of people that have worked for my dad in the past were successful business owners of themselves when they took off and left. A lot of people started at our store, like Bill Nash, Bob McLaughlin,
sure,
Todd Wood. So I mean, it really goes way, way back, and our family goes way, way back. A funny story about Bill. Bill Gickling started running around my dad's place. He started his first dealership in his garage and worked on bikes, and then Bill was always hanging over at his house. I mean, they ate supper every night, it seemed like, to the point where my mom thought, well, he can't stay here all the time, so she only had 2 steaks one Sunday night. Well, Bill goes, well, shit. We live just under 2 miles away from us. I can go to my house and get a steak. So he gets on his bicycle and goes all the way home. But I mean, what a cool thing for a neighborhood to have, kids running around watching him work on motorcycles and do wheelies and burnouts or whatever. And I mean, Bill was kind of like part of the family. One of the stories my mom told me is Bill on a Sunday night said, "How come you guys don't have any kids?" And my mom's answer was, well, if you would go home once in a while, maybe we would. So, Bill was an important part of the dealership before he left. I don't know. It's just been a crazy ride of different manufacturers. And
so he was a plumber, and he started the dealership just out of pure passion, and had other people run it. And then when did he decide to transition from a plumber into making it what it is, or what it was?
Well, I think in like 1967, maybe 1968, Toyota franchise came along, and he got a Toyota franchise. So along this whole story of everything, we're in the 7th location now. We had a flood take us out in 1972. The flood would have never hit, but Toyota said that, we were out by the interstate at one point, and Honda said, car dealerships are in town, we're not on interstates, we got to be in town. Well, he moved into there was 2 places to go through Rapid City because there's 2 mountains in the way. So it was prime real estate. My dad owned like 3 or 4 city blocks in the best real estate you could imagine. And then one night a dam broke and 239 people died, and the business washed down the way. Oh. In fact, I believe Bill Gickling might have saved my dad's life because they were at the dealership having beers and stuff after the car races got canceled. But, just kind of
hell, car races get canceled, starts to rain, let's pop some tops and let's drink some beer.
Right. So they're lucky the building didn't go. I mean, there was a second level, but the whole showroom got washed down the way. And this is back in the good old days where all the purchase orders were still in the salesman's desk. Hell, the checks were in the salesman's desk. But, quite a deal. And the crazy part is he probably was 3 to 6 months away from owning all the real estate, all the inventory, and then boom, no insurance, start over.
Unbelievable. Well, obviously that gets passed down to you in some capacity. You mentioned Bill Gickling. I want to circle back on him because I had a Bill Gickling thing to ask you about. But let's just talk about you. Where do you fit in? When did you start working at the dealership? How did it become your dealership? And in the move of all those moves that you had, how many of those were your decision, or did you guys just decide to uproot and move it based on, proximity, or what was it?
Well, we sold Swin bicycles back in the day, and I loved bicycles. I mean, just a nut about bicycles. So I was always addicted to wanting the next model, and of course, getting older. So I started working there when I was 8 years old, and never quit working there. We had to buy our own bicycles and trampolines, and he did give me a car, $1,200 pickup truck that was so ugly I had to sell it and buy
a bicycle
Toyota pickup. Yeah, but yeah. So I've been working there forever. In late 2011, I finally put a plan together that was acceptable to him to sell out, because he's the hardest guy to close on anything, because he just didn't
I wonder if the apple falls far from a tree. I wonder, is he stubborn, Wade?
A little.
Okay.
So in my dad's world, he thinks that all these people I mentioned that worked for him in the past graduated from Don Rice University, and realistically, learning on my dad's dime for Bill Gickling and me and stuff like that, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But yeah, it was really funny that when I bought it from him, we weren't having that great of a year. And a year later, the bankers take us out for supper, or lunch, excuse me. And I mean, we just had a killer year the first year I bought it, out of sheer luck. But my dad's sitting across from me, and the banker said, "What do you attribute the huge turnaround and success?" And I looked at the bankers. I said, "New ownership." Had nothing to do with it. It was just timing. But the look on my dad's face, oh my God.
Or debt. That's a good motivator as well. Debt will drive you. When was that, Wade? When did that purchase happen?
Late 2011.
Okay. And you started working there since you were 8, and then up to 2011. So I'm surprised you didn't try to make a move sooner than that.
Well, I had opportunities to go, but, you know, my dad made some he made a lot of good decisions throughout his business acumen and stuff that he went through. A good smoozer with the bankers, and a big dreamer, which is great. I mean, anybody that can dream a little bit's great, but to tie it all up, and like he never wanted me to join the 20 club. And I go, everybody's doing it. They're passing us by. So I finally got him to do it, and he just never wanted to, let go. But in the end, everything that we've done going forward, I mean, had a lot to do with the 20 clubs being successful. I mean, again, he started a bunch of different tangents. He had a liquor store. He started a construction company, started building houses. It's like, no, don't do that. Started a truck company, don't do that. Let's just put all the eggs in the basket and focus on, selling the fun and moving forward. So, I don't know. They've had a crazy life. My parents.
And has he continued that crazy ADHD, as I would call it, attitude about businesses while you stayed put on the power sports side?
He just kind of shut down and did the smoozing to the bankers. I wasn't the best guy to go to the banks, but to get where we got, there's been a lot of good people that helped us. It's not just the 20 club. It's the bankers. It's the employees. It's having great customers. And, to me, one of the biggest things that, and I don't know if my dad would say this, but probably the biggest thing is what we've helped other people do. Being able to be successful, we can pay people more money. They can buy houses and boats and motorhomes, and that makes me feel well. It's not just a money thing for me. I like to see success.
That's awesome. So, yeah, I mean, pure family business started by your dad. You started working there when you were 8. I know that both Garrett and Reed, your sons, work there. Alicia's husband now works for you. So it's a family affair, right? And we can get into that a little bit later. But I want to ask you, what are the best things about running a family business? And then conversely, what are the worst things about running a family business? And not only from your dad to you, but then now you to your children. What are the best things?
Well, like I said, the best thing is whether it's bringing your children in and giving them opportunity to someday be owners, but it's really just helping everybody else around. If we have a good solid team underneath us, it makes our jobs easy. Where if they're not goofing off and they're not taking care of the customer, I mean, it really comes down to, yes, we got to make money, but is important too is take care of the customer, take care of the employees, and everything else will take care of itself. So, I mean, that's really it in a nutshell. Obviously, my dad got into some different things where he spent his money on real estate and didn't have a lot of cash flow. Well, like if I'd have jumped ship and went somewhere else to work at a dealership or buy another dealership, he would have struggled in the rest of his life. So I knew at the end it was going to be a good landing for me if I could actually get him to sell out to me. But I mean, it was, forever for him to agree. And all I had to do is figure out, what can I do for him to make him comfortable for the rest of his life? So we're sitting at the buy-sell deal, and the attorney's on my side because he understands that they're getting old. And, we're sitting there, and I think, it was 91. He's 91 now. It was 14.
He's breaking out the calculator.
Oh my God, is it abacus?
He was like, is that right?
He's breaking it out again. Make sure you hit return so the tape actually comes out so you can hold on to it, Wade.
Yeah.
Rip, and I have it right here.
So I think he's 77, and the attorney had something that showed the likelihood of him living 10 to 15 more years, and the percentage of making to that far. It's just like he's got this much of his life left, and he's worried about everything. If I can make it so he don't have to worry about anything the rest of his life, would he sell it to me? And of course, my mom definitely had influence on it. One thing that we talk about a lot is my dad, but if it wasn't for my mom, none of this would have happened. I mean, she worked her tail off. And unfortunately, both of them worked so much that they really didn't get an opportunity to go spend some of all their money that they had made in their time. So I'm focused on that I'm still young enough and I can go do stuff. Now is the time for me to peel off and have some fun. But, I felt like I really needed to stay with the family business and grind through it. And there was tough times for everybody. I know, in the, 2006, 2008, where everybody took shit. I figured we have to continue to make the building payment. We have to continue to make utility payments. What can I do, off market to maybe subsidize the business? So we got into used cars and started selling used cars. Our numbers jumped back in our 20 club well faster than most because we had that opportunity to where we could park cars, and we used to be in the car business, and we were on a street that was dynamite for used car sales. So, trading cars on bikes, bikes on cars. I mean, you name it, we've traded it.
Yeah. Well, you're also right there down the road from Sturgis. You're a couple of blocks away from Sturgis. And it's funny, we were talking about Bill Gickling, and I remember it was 2001, I think it was, that we were in a meeting together. It was in Boston, and some people were going to go to the ball game in Boston. I remember sitting in the room with Ed Lemko, and Bill Gickling's in that room. And Chris Watts and his dad were in that room, right? And I remember Bill Gickling. They were asking about Sturgis, and he's like, Bill Gickling's like, "Well, I told you guys a million times. The hardest thing about Sturgis is where do you put all the damn cash?" I'll never forget that line. Where do you put it all? Where do you hide it? In a mattress and the pillows? And like, where do you put this cash? So you were right. And by the way, you should know I tried to get Bill on this podcast with you. I was hoping to get both of you on the podcast. Here we are on the heels of the Sturgis Rally, just having finished, a little bit ago. And I wanted to have both of your perspectives on the rally. And his response to me was, Dantzler, if you think I remember anything about those years, you're out of your mind. You should try another person. I was like, all right, Bill, see you later, dude.
Oh, he's still pretty damn sharp. So
I'm sure he is. But
yeah,
tell us a little bit about go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, when he moved into his new store, I want to say, like a grocery checkout line, he had like 8 checkout lines, and they would get 15 people deep with arms full of T-shirts to bring back to their buddies.
Yeah,
it was the craziest. I mean, how do you go from just normal to boom? Well, hell, now they have 500 employees with their sub stores and stuff.
Wow.
Who would want that? I wouldn't want that. I know the stress, knowing Bill my whole life, I know the stress that he went through, because I don't know if he really wanted to empower enough other people to make it go.
Yeah.
I get it.
He was a piece of work. That he thought big. He acted big. He ate big. He drank big. Right? He's quite the character. But tell us about Sturgis. Talk to us about the early days of Sturgis and kind of how those days really affected your business.
Well, like I said, I grew up in it, racing and stuff like that. But back in the day, all these bikes had chains. So I was working in the parts department at 14, and these people would come in on TS 185s. I need a chain and sprocket, and we would serve them up a chain and the sprocket, and they had all the shit bungee corded to their seats, and they're from New York or California, and they just wanted to get there.
Yeah, just to be there.
So, Sturgis is just. It's cool that it's kind of coming around a little bit more to racing again, but I mean, it's really a rock and roll. It's just as much rock and roll as a motorcycle show anymore.
When is your earliest recollection of the rally? When it actually, when it was like, hey, a bunch of people are showing up. When was it like, wow, this is actually a thing?
For me, well, we were 9 years old racing XR 75s. That's what I remember of the Sturgis Rally. And instead of having, 10 riders to compete against, you had 30 in your class.
Wow.
And it was, my parents really didn't take me down to Main Street at that point. To understand what's really going on.
Yeah, Don left everybody at home, and he went down there by himself. Is what he did.
Right.
I remember when I was 19, I went to the Buffalo Chip for the very first time. It was actually the day my son got born. They moved to
hell of a choice there, Wade.
Yeah,
Kid was born, and I went to the Buffalo Chip.
Here I am to go to the Buffalo Chip. I got my white Honda jacket on. Todd Gickling has a Yamaha jacket on, and Laverne Berry has his Kawasaki jacket on. They're both younger than I am. And we're walking around. There's burning Japanese motorcycles in a pile.
So a follow-up question to that whole scenario, which is how has the rally affected your business? To the point where what you just said was there you and Gickling are in your Japanese apparel, which back then was, that was a non-starter. That's a bridge too far back then, but it's become, it is still, predominantly American iron. It has become a much more diverse crowd that's going there. So how has it affected business?
Well, today, we do a lot of trikes. And we still do a fair amount of gold wings, but the This year, Can-Am came in and sat up across from Harley-Davidson and did the Can-Am Spider demos. And they had a great success this last year. But even 5 years ago, during the rally, I would pull up to an intersection and it was like there was trikes going every different direction with an old bearded guy with gray hair and looked more like a Viagra commercial than a Harley-Davidson rally. But I mean, it is what it is. So we really need to figure out how to get younger people to still want to come and do it. This year we had Factory Honda doing test rides in our parking lot again. I had them prior to COVID. When we built this dealership, we built it for the Sturgis Rally, so we could accommodate demo trucks. So, but we had them there. We had J&M Audio. We had Spider Extras in our lot. But I will say people were probably a little more reserved with money this year, but we're still on pace to do well better than last year. But it's mainly due to the manufacturers needing to be at this rally. When we built the store, we took on Triumph, and I sat there in Atlanta with the bosses, and I said, it's the world's biggest motorcycle rally. Yeah, it's predominantly Harley-Davidson, but it's the world's biggest motorcycle rally. I'll take them on if you come do test rides in my parking lot. I'll take Triumph on, but I won't take them on without it, just for the fact if you can't tell your customers you care enough about them to come to the world's biggest motorcycle rally, what else can't you do? And it rung home to them. Well, then COVID happened. They've been back since COVID, but they didn't come back this year. They just, all manufacturers, they always want to get the return on investment. Guess what? You have no return on investment if you don't have no customers. If you don't give people a reason to ride, what else are you not doing? So you got to give them a reason to ride, a reason to come. Harley-Davidson spends a ton of money. Yeah. And yeah, they're dominant. Do they sit back and not come? No. Indian spends a ton of money. Heck, we were a top 16 victory dealer, and we rolled a lot of bikes during the rally for them. I think the last year we sold 42 to 45 units. So I just think all of them need to come and be part of it.
Well, I tell you, Tony and I, we've been going to the AIM Expo now for many, many years. And it just seems like as of late, we can't, what do we have? Everyone but Harley and Honda there last year? Wasn't that the count? Or was that the year before? We had almost all the major manufacturers there.
Yeah, quite a few of them for sure.
And it's just like, people are thinking, well, it's not what Indy used to be. Well, I know it's not what Indy used to be. Indy's long gone. Indy's when they had the big reveals of the new models, and now it's all over the internet. So, okay, close the book on Indy, and now you have the biggest motorcycle gathering as far as the business acumen. Why wouldn't all the major brands want to be there? To the exact same point, Wade, I would think even if you didn't sponsor it, you weren't the lead dog, you'd want to ride the coattails of the ones who were. And that's essentially what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, and it even comes back to like racing. I follow the dirt track racing, and we had 3 national events for the first time in Sturgis, and it was awesome. But none of the factories, they give a little bit of support. But what would happen if Honda, Yamaha, Kawasaki, all these dealerships, or not dealerships, manufacturers sponsored racers and actually promoted it? How many more people could they get to the stands?
Sure.
What else can't they do?
There's a lot of Lemco coming out of you right now. If you can't do the traffic log, what else can't you do? Said Lemco, but I do like it. Well, I didn't get a chance to look at the numbers this year, Wade. How was the rally? How popular was the rally relative to years past? I know it's still booming.
Regardless, so don't take me wrong. It's still a massive, massive event. Unfortunately, I went through the 50th anniversary, and it was wall to wall. I mean, there wasn't enough asphalt for us. If you drove through the hills, it was front fender to fender gridlock almost, going 10 miles an hour. So I mean, anything comparative to that is not the same. But so this year they're saying that, maybe the count was up 12-15% at the most. And I would agree with that. There's just a ton of motorcycles, but it's not a spillover. And, when they exaggerated that, there's 800,000 people come to the rally when they try to jazz the numbers up. We have 800,000 people in the whole state. We don't have enough asphalt for 800,000 people.
It's unbelievable.
In the Black Hills.
Well, I also think people think this is, recent, like the Sturgis Rally's been around for the last 20 years. The Sturgis Rally was around since the 30s, right? Late 37, 38, something like that. It's been around for 80 some years. It's nuts. It's crazy.
Yeah. And people, in the end, people really love coming to the rally. It might not be the best time to come to the Black Hills because it's harder to ride during the rally because it's so busy. But people come after the rally, and that's one of the things that attracts. We're a tourist dealer, we're a tourist area, so we rely heavily on the tire changes and people breaking down and trading their bike in, or just getting the parts special ordered so we can get them back on the road. We get to meet these people, and We had a guy from Florida come in. It's his third Goldwing he bought from us. That kind of stuff. And that's what the Harley-Davidson dealership has done, is they've really captured that I don't know, zoo type. I bought during the big party rally or whatever. It just makes it fun for them. They all become friends. They come year after year. So what if we all stop doing that? What if Harley quits coming to the rally? It just will die. That's not what we need. We need to bring new people in, get them started on bicycles like Ryan McFarland. Get them started on that program, and his All Kids Ride program. Our Honda Riders Club funded 2 of the airbase kindergartens with their bicycle program.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And the local Harley store did every kindergarten in Rapid City with that program. And I know you guys are a little familiar with it, but
yep.
Every kid learns how to ride a bicycle. Well, you think the manufacturers would jump on that? They're not listening. They're not. If we don't get people balancing, we won't get people on two-wheelers down the road.
So Wade, let me ask you a question since you're taking us here. Is what would you want to tell the manufacturers if you could? Where and this is one of the questions that I had for you at the end, is kind of where do you see the industry heading? But do you see that things are working? Do you see that the relationship is adversarial? Do you see that they're not doing enough or too much? Like what would you want to say?
Well, that's a big can of worms there.
Take a couple of the worms. Just take three worms. We've already talked completely horrible pornographic defiling at minute 22. Yeah. So where are we not gonna go? Let's hit it.
Well, I'll try to make this part short. The manufacturers' programs aren't deep enough for us to sell them fast enough. So they're wanting to shove inventory down our throats without the incentive to back them up. But more importantly, it's every manufacturer probably has too much product, but they're not spending the marketing money. If you can't get people interested in what you got, what else are you not doing? And I'll pick on Honda because on their dual clutch transmission, I'm sure you guys have all seen how walking mode works on a Goldwing.
Walking mode? No, I do not know how walking mode. I can guess, but no.
Okay, how in the hell? It's been out since 2018. Walking mode is when you put the DCT into reverse and you have a shifter, an up-down shifter.
Yeah.
In walking mode, you can put it in walking mode forward or reverse in a matter of a half second. It is unbelievable.
Yeah, so just a little assist to move a big machine around a parking lot.
Well, it's actually gear on gear. It's for loading bikes, unloading bikes, for moving around parking lots. There's they just have not promoted it enough. So when I show demonstrations during the rally, and I do like talking to customers, so it's a blast. They look at me like, what in the hell magic button are you pushing? Because I'm not pulling, I'm not pushing, I'm just walking with it. And it's a half second back and forth, just doing this.
Yeah, so, I had no idea.
So why aren't we marketing? In the old days, when people came to their store, I want to see the V65 Magna. They seen the ad with the burnout and stuff. Nowadays, they come in. Have you seen the DCT Honda with automatic? Well, what's that? The manufacturers should be driving people to us to ask those questions. We shouldn't have to show them for the first time. It's been out since 2018. So that's just one little nutshell of a hot thing that they just don't exploit. So in the end, we had this big rush of business during COVID. 25% were new customers. My whole contention when this first started was, what are we going to do as a manufacturer? I know what I wanted to do, but what are the manufacturers going to do to keep people interested that jumped back in the industry? 3% of the population had our stuff, but 30% want it. Well, during COVID, that 30% was absolutely spot on. They all bought. 30% of them bought what they could get, not what they wanted. What did we do as an industry to turn those people into what they really wanted? What did we do to attach their neighbors and friends to buy a unit? Did we market? Did we over, like when Sea-Doo come out, they spent a ton of money. What did we do after COVID? The manufacturers didn't spend a ton of money. They just said rebates and take this, take this, take this. Kawasaki got on the gas. They spent some marketing money, and look what happened.
I don't know, Wade. I'm going to push back on that a little bit because I sit here and think not on the walking mode. I think manufacturers have an absolute responsibility to create awesome stuff and tell everybody about it. Right? I don't know that the manufacturer has the responsibility to tell my friends why they need another motorcycle. They can keep running cool ads. I think the dealership and the follow-up from the dealership, along with me telling my friends how awesome this new thing is that I have, I think that's where it lies more than the manufacturer. Wouldn't you think?
Well, we did. So we have a players-only dealership, and we just pounded, we need trade-in incentives. If they trade in their unit, give them some extra money on trade-in. And they had a program, wasn't really advertised very well, but they gave us a tool. And we took advantage of it. Not all dealerships are good at trades. We happen to be very good at trades. So that tool sold us some extra units. But let's tell the world that you can get extra money on trade and get out of the one you didn't want into the one you do want.
I see where you're going. I agree with that marketing campaign.
Yeah, I think the responsibility is on both the manufacturer and, to Sam's point, the dealer also. So I think the manufacturers have completely orphaned potential customers post-COVID. And I also think that dealerships have orphaned their existing customers. We've talked about this a million times on the show, which is you came in, I didn't do anything other than make a transaction. You walked away and I haven't touched you since because it was just too easy. And so I agree with both sides of that, Wade.
Yeah, I just think as the manufacturers, you don't see hardly any TV by any manufacturer, but I still see Ford F-150 on TV, late night news and stuff like that, sporting events. I see cell phones, which everybody's got one in front of their face all the time. They're still advertising. You think if advertising didn't work on TV, there would be cell phone ads? No. When Ford F-150 quits advertising on TV, when Honda and Toyota quit advertising on TV, it's dead. It's not dead yet. So what I'm saying is once in a while they need to punch it out 2-3 times a year, have some good promotions, and keep two-wheel power sports stuff side-by-sides in the top of the mind awareness. They just kind of backed off. And
yeah, fair. Let me move on from that, Wade, and that is that you you had the mega store that you built from the old school store. And that thing is huge. And then not only that, you went out and you bought 2 other stores. So now not only do you have the mega store, but you're a multi-rooftop operation. How has that changed your business, and how has that changed your time? And talk to us about that.
Well, it was some of the scariest times ever. Building this new store, having the opportunity to buy a open point for Polaris. I didn't want to sell against them. And then, by the time we're getting the second new store built, COVID arrives, and I'm maxed out to my parents. I'm maxed out to the banks. I didn't know what COVID was going to do. I thought, shit, I'm going to have to find somebody to buy the loans because I'm not going to be able to make payments, and won't be able to even make the payments to my parents. Have to, give it back to them and work for them, so they don't lose everything they did. And I'm talking to Bob McLaughlin down in Arizona. He goes, "It's crazy. People are buying stuff left and right." I go, "Really?" "Yep." And I thought, shit, we were sitting on too much inventory already. So, the perfect storm happened, and the opposite happened to me, where it jumped me forward 5 years in life with what we did in COVID and the sales. So, just crazy times. And then the third store, he offered it to me first. It's 50 miles from here. And it was kind of funny. He's another schoolmate, but he never worked for me, but he was a schoolmate. And I knew him fairly good, but he got into the franchise of Honda, Yamaha, and BRP came to me and said, "Hey, we're going to do open point in Spearfish." Well, I didn't. That was when I had just one dealership. I go, well, I don't really want a second store. And I figured if I put that store up there, that might put him in a bad way. And I just didn't want a second store. So I called them up and said, "Hey, they want me to do it. I don't want to do it. BRP will be the biggest part of your business in a matter of 2 years. You really need to do that." That one phone call made the difference on letting me have first opportunity to buy him. So he gave me a fair price and gave me first option. So sometimes helping other people pans out. He goes, dude, "You're the only dealer that really helped me."
That's great.
Wait, let me ask you a question. We talked about COVID a little bit, and some of the anomalies that have happened in the industry, some of the one-offs. If you put those to the side and just talk about some of the, ATVs and UTVs came on strong, and we still seem to play at the 3% mark, whatever it happens to be. Like, what's the most significant change in the industry? You were talking about 3-wheelers versus reverse 3-wheelers with the trikes that are out there right now. We're back into small displacement bikes, hopefully getting kids back involved. What has hit you is like, what is the most significant change of the decades that you believe has happened to really change this industry?
It's a side-by-side. I want to say I'm a motorcycle dealer, but we're a side-by-side dealer that sells motorcycles. My passion's still in the 2 wheels. But when we were at the old store and Honda didn't have a side-by-side, Can-Am didn't have a side-by-side, the ATV sales versus side-by-sides were going crazy. We were just a huge underdog. And I always thought, geez, if Honda would just make one, if Can-Am would just make one. And obviously it took off, and we became a very good BRP dealership. It was really funny when BRP had the step-through ATV, and we were a good-sized Honda dealer. BRP had the step-through ATV that looked kind of goofy. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. But the rep sat on the other side of my desk, and he said, "In time, BRP will be the biggest part of your business." And I was a good-sized Honda dealership. This is before Polaris, Victory, and stuff like that. And I looked at him and thought, "You're full of shit. There's no way ever." And sure as shit, BRP is the biggest part of our business. So when you look at what BRP did with, jumping in with Sea-Doo and spending all this marketing money, what that did to my business. BRP jumping into the ATVs and side-by-side business, what that did to our company. BRP jumping into something new in the three-wheel market, what that did to our business. Without those different inventions and knowing, if you go back 30 years ago and said someday you're going to make your money on three-wheelers again, I mean, it's just the whole thing's been just crazy on things that have changed. I remember when the ATV three-wheel thing was going down. I just was married, sitting in San Diego. ATCs, yeah. I'm sitting there in the convention hall, just were married, woke up, third story. I look out my window and there's this giant blown up Honda ATV Big Red. I thought, man, this is cool times, because you couldn't order enough of them. I'm sitting there with my back against the wall, trying to decide, is 430 ATVs, three-wheelers, going to be enough, or should I order more?
Wow. Unbelievable.
And that was my 19 years old. My dad shouldn't have had me in that position, but at 19 years old, I'm thinking, this is not going to be enough. And it was enough, because Barbara Walters came on and said how dangerous they were.
Barbara Walters.
That's awesome.
Hey, quick, Tony, I'm going to give it to you for last question, but just a quick follow-up on that. As you mentioned three-wheelers and how important that part of the business is to you, it seems like the three-wheeler piece, whether it's the trikes or the reverse trikes, didn't make its way into slingshots and Vanderhauls, which are almost like cars. Do you think that chapter is closed, or are we still going to explore that as a power sport industry?
Yeah, I really love, I've test drove both. We sell the slingshots. I love driving them. Have you guys drove them? They're
had one at one point, yeah.
Yeah, they're an absolute blast.
Yeah.
The used ones are hotcakes. You can't get enough used ones. But the manufacturer, if they almost need somebody else to come in and compete, just like, jet ski wasn't doing nothing until Sea-Doo came out and Yamaha came out, and then it blew up. They almost need that. And if it's going to survive at their volume they're doing, I condone them for kind of grinding it out, but they need to support the dealers again. It's unfortunate that they set a dealership 25 miles away from me, because I would be selling a lot more. I was doing fine until that happened, but it is what it is. But if Yamaha came out with a three-wheeler, if Honda come out with a three-wheeler,
all right,
I think you could see some traction. Can-Am's in the driver's seat, although they need to make them much easier to work on. And one of the biggest things about Can-Am, in my opinion, why there's some dealerships that are dropping them, is they're not paying us the flat rate that they really need to do their warranty work. They really need to take care of the dealers. They need to make them easier to work on. I think it takes about 2.5 hours to change oil on one. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right.
Well, right on, Wade. Listen, that was awesome having you on the podcast and digging into your head a little bit. I don't want to end this interview. You said, we're talking about your dad, and none of this would go on without your mom. We would be remiss if we would not mention one Michelle Rice, who is the genius behind you, and is always around and always your biggest hero. So I want to make sure she hears that.
Yeah, she's a big part of my insanity, I guess, when it comes to this.
I don't know what it is, man, either, because she thinks that you hung the moon too. That's nuts.
Good salesman.
Yeah. So, I mean, she does help around the store and stuff like that, but nothing in the internal part. And my mom, because
she helps you, is what she does.
Yeah, exactly. My mom, I never wanted to put my wife in the situation my mom was put in.
Right.
Because they talk business all day and all night.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, thank you, Wado, for coming on. For Wade Rice and Sam Dantzler, I'm Tony Gonzalez, Systems and GarageCast. Have a fantastic Tuesday, everybody.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.